Welcome to Becoming Parents Podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Campbell, mom of 18 and executive director of the Doula Co-op of Nevada. With more than 15 years in birth work, I've had the privilege of walking beside families through life's transitions. My work centers on connection, community, and amplifying voices that too often go unheard. Each of these episodes is an honest conversation about the messy, beautiful, and transformative experiences that shape us as parents and as people. I'd like to extend a heartfelt thank you to the incredible guests who show up with courage and authenticity to share their stories with us. Let's dive right in. Welcome to Becoming Parents. Today I have with me Toni Toomey, which rhymes, and I think it's so fun. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on.
I'm like really excited about this for lots of reasons, and I want you to first jump in and share your parenting journey.
Absolutely. So I did not think I wanted to be a mom for a very long time. And when I met my husband, we actually bonded over that. We both said no kids, absolutely not. And my niece is just a few years younger than me. And I actually got to witness her have her first baby at a birthing center. And I was present for the whole thing. And it was very transformative for me. And I was 35 at the time. And I think there's just like a switch that flips when you hit 35, where it's like the internal clock starts ticking. And I went home and I was like, wow, I actually want to do this. And my poor husband was like, wait a minute. But he got on board. Lots of therapy, lots of conversations, and then we started trying a few months later, and we were lucky. It only took a couple months, and my daughter just turned 2 in November.
I mean, holy speed through that. That's, you know what? It would be so hard to both feel the same way and then have one person decide, like, not just a little bit, a complete 180
Yeah.
over something that important. So you said therapy and lots of conversations. Like, I'm sure you just going through that and thinking, no, I want to do this. There had to be a much more in-depth process, even knowing that, you
Yeah.
know, then it's like, why and what for and how, and are you sure? Um, how crazy that you changed your mind and he was like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, both of us, like, it really came from a place of fear where we were both just kind of afraid that we wouldn't be good parents, and we kind of have strained relationships with our parents. And so it really just like conquering that fear together, it brought us closer together. And once we recognized hey, we're actually making this decision from a place of fear, and we don't make any other decisions in our life from a place of fear, so why are we doing this one that way? It kind of became pretty easy. It was a kind of a big unlock there.
I love that we discussed this, because I think I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday, 35, been together for 13 years, thought they'd want to have kids, haven't yet, are thinking about starting. And I said, whatever you're waiting for, like to be ready, or
Yeah.
it's, you can do all the research you want. And this is not a put down. You will never be ready. You will
Yep.
you just have to decide to jump in or to not jump in. But if you're waiting, he's like, yeah, we're waiting till we're ready. And I was like,
That doesn't exist.
because I said, if I'm really honest with you, you can do all this like training and courses and reading and all of these things and be like, I'm ready. And I'm like, trust me, you are not ready.
Yeah.
But that's part of kind of the process of becoming a parent, is
Yes.
just that no matter where you started from in your readiness journey, you're really not. And there's no, also, I think pregnancy and postpartum, jump in on this. If there are 12 symptoms and everyone will get 7, but you don't know what 7,
Yeah.
it's, or the severity or how it will affect you. Like, you almost can't plan for some things. And as a doula, I was always like, we're going to do as much planning as we can. But in the end,
It's
we
a toss up.
we don't plan for stuff, because
Yeah.
I'm just going to wait and see what comes up, because it's never the same.
Yep.
Yeah, holy cow. So that's a huge shift. What about career? And like, what came into that before having kids? Because I mean, 35, you were advanced maternal age.
Yes. I was
Stupidest thing ever.
old.
Stupid, stupid. I hate it. Okay. But
Yeah.
anyway, you're coming into this later.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. So I had like an established career, and I mean I still do. Had is not past tense. Like my husband and I both worked. I worked from home. I've been working from home since like the COVID days. I just have worked for VC backed startups, and so I've always been able to work from home. And I knew that I wanted to like structure my life where I had more balance. I've always worked for startups, and that a lot of times like there's just no balance in startups. It's absolute chaos. And so when I was actually looking for a new position a couple years before we had my daughter, I wanted something that offered balance so that I could be present in my marriage and have hobbies and things like that. Little did I know I was actually making space to have a kid someday. But I run operations for a startup. So I kind of approached like pregnancy and postpartum in a similar way. Like I bought courses and I read books and I had spreadsheets and I just like planned and you're so right. Like you really just have no idea until it happens. And we tried for a home birth. I worked with a midwife, like planned for a home birth. My daughter had other ideas. She was breech, did not want to turn, and we ended up having a C-section. So it was very like humbling for me because in my career, I can control all of these variables and I can prepare, and preparation equals success. And in childbirth, it's like prepare all you want. It is out of your control.
it's great that I mean, first of all the education and the reading and the courses, like those are great. Those help you probably in a lot of ways that you didn't anticipate, not the way that you were thinking that they were, but still, the more educated we are and advocates for ourselves and
Yeah.
learning just the terminology. I feel like sometimes we're in like acronym overload in maternal health. You don't even know what questions to ask. So putting yourself in a place where, oh, you now know what questions to ask and what to talk
Yeah.
about, and that you wanted a home birth. It was the same thing for me. I was going through a birthing center, my first birth. And why I think it's always amazing, those of us who have our first birth and want to do a birthing center or home birth, because that's like gutsy. We don't know anything about like maybe the naivety is what does it. And I was in transport too, but and it went fine. It's just that I think you put yourself in the mindset that is the best mindset to be in, regardless of how sideways things go, because it's
Yeah.
not uncommon for things to go sideways. Birth is unpredictable.
Yeah.
So when it goes perfectly according to the birth plan, I'm always like, well, that was a treat. Because it's
Yeah.
so often just something doesn't. Something
Yeah.
doesn't. So trying for a home birth, you when did you find out you were breech? Because like home birth to C-section is like best to worst case scenario.
Yes. Yeah. So that was a whole lot of drama. The midwife that was actually like doing my care, there was two midwives in the practice, one that I absolutely adored, and then another one that I didn't meet until much later. And for some reason, like she just didn't like me. It was like very obvious, even to my husband, to everyone else. So every time that I went, and because of the schedule and when I was going for the last 2 months, she's the only person that did all of my appointments. They had a student midwife, and the student midwife was the only one who ever examined me, palpated my belly, all of that. The actual midwife never once touched me in those 2 months. And I have a really short torso. So baby was high, like she was up here. The student midwife was feeling her butt down in my pelvis and thinking it was her head. So she was actually breached. Like I had, because I was advanced maternal age, I ended up doing more ultrasounds. I did have one at like 24 or 28 weeks or something like that. And she was breached then. And the ultrasound tech said, like, oh, it's still early. She can turn. So I
Yeah.
was doing like spinning baby stuff and all of that. And the student midwife was like, oh, yeah, she's turned. She's heads down. Like, you're good. And I trusted her. I didn't know any better.
Right.
And so finally, at 39 weeks, my water broke spontaneously at night while I was sleeping. I joke that Amelia just like kicked her foot through because that's what it felt like. And then I was in labor for 36 hours, and my contractions never got closer than 7 minutes apart.
Mm,
But for like 24 hours, they were 7 minutes apart. And in my back, because she was breech,
yeah.
because there was no downward pressure, I wasn't dilating. So I had my doula. She came over. She also didn't palpate my belly when she got there and like didn't, I don't know, didn't really examine me. So I go through the whole night. The next morning, she was like, I think we should call the midwives to come and do a check, even though like, you're not advancing. Like it's been long enough, like your contractions should be getting closer together. So the midwives walked in and she looked at my belly, and the first thing she said was, your baby is breech. And I like my heart just broke because I was like, my belly has looked exactly like this for 3 months. Like it's nothing has changed. And so if she would have just looked at me while I was there, she would have known. And so they went and got their ultrasound thing. She did that. She confirmed baby's breech. She did a cervical check. I was like 1 centimeter dilated. And I was like, okay. So at this point, she said, we were in Washington at the time, and it's legal for midwives to deliver breech babies in Washington. And she said, we can give you the midwives brew to try to speed things up, and we can deliver this, or you can transfer care. And at that point, like I just didn't trust her anymore. The trust was completely gone. And I was like, no, I want to transfer care. I want to transfer care before it becomes an emergent situation. Like I just breach is hard enough, and without the trust there. And we were 25 minutes from the nearest hospital. So I just didn't want to risk it. So we transferred. The doctor at the hospital was amazing. My doula was also my photographer. He actually let her come in the OR. So I have photos of him like lifting the baby out, which is really cool. And he offered to try to turn her, but at that point, her heart rate was kind of dipping a little bit. I had been in labor for so long and was just so exhausted. And I was like, no, let's just go the C-section route, because I don't know, something inside me just felt like that was the route that I was supposed to go. And so I listened to that and went with it. And luckily, like, I don't know, my recovery wasn't that bad. I've definitely interviewed moms who have had horrendous C-section recovery stories, but I was up moving around the next day. I didn't have like lasting effects from the epidural or anything like that. So I'm super thankful. We spent 2 nights in the hospital and then got to go home. But yeah, it went from home birth to the worst case scenario.
And the doula shouldn't have been checking you. That's not her role. But how sad,
Yeah.
because it's so rare to hear, or it's a lot more rare,
Yeah.
uncommon to hear stories like this about midwives. And the crazy thing is that medical providers have the right to say they're not a good fit for a patient. And I don't even understand that. That's so sad, because had you known earlier and worked on it,
Oh my gosh, I would have done so many things. I would have worked with my doula and the
right?
chiropractor and like all the things that could have happened. I would have tried to have her rotate before, but
No,
yeah, and
not
that midwife isn't practicing anymore. I heard through the grapevine that she just was having a really bad year and like had a lot of things happen, and the practice dissolved, and she's no longer practicing, and I just got caught up in what was a really bad year for her. So I try to like give her grace on that, because everybody has their stuff. But yeah, it was I think the hardest but also most validating part was I did see in some like local mom groups that other women had similar experiences with her. And that breaks my heart that anybody else had to go through that. But also like there was a part of me that was like, am I crazy? Am I making
is it
this
just
up?
me? Why does she not?
Yeah.
Why was it me? What did I? Yeah, I think
Yeah.
the biggest thing in when things go sideways, because it is more common, it's when the woman has a chance to make decisions, which you got to do. I mean, you had a
Yeah.
couple choices, you went that way. You had a couple more choices at the hospital, you went that way, because when you feel like you're part of your own team and you're making the decisions for yourself, it doesn't really matter what the decision was, or the outcome of that.
Yeah.
It's that you were part of the conversation. It's when that's taken away from them. If you had been shamed for trying to have a home birth or whatever,
Yeah.
from there downhill, it's not a good experience. And so how great. I had the same thing, transferred,
Yeah.
never met the guy. He was great, had a good experience. Like, not a C-section, but like the whole
Yeah.
thing was wonderful. So, and the fact that you healed well and that was a good experience. I feel like, well, I had a client who was a physical therapist, and on her first birth, she didn't have a doula and it wasn't a planned C-section, and she felt totally steamrollered through the process. But when she got to recovery, she said, when is the physical therapist coming in to help me with this major surgery that cut through 7 layers of my body? And they're like,
Yeah.
oh no, we don't do that.
Yeah.
And she's like, but I'm a physical therapist, and like, if you have a surgery on your foot, no, not dismissing that, but like, you're in
Yeah.
physical therapy, how can you go through something this massive and have no support? And she
Yeah.
changed her practice so that she works with women. But the point is, like, there's not really much support postpartum in general, and especially in a C-section. And so I'm glad that you had a good experience. That's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. There really is a lack of like resources in general in postpartum. And it's like I have my podcast, the Postpartum Standard, specifically for that to help moms and kind of fill that resource gap. And like I live in Idaho now, and postpartum depression impacts women here at twice the rate of the national average because we have such a low age of first time moms here. And so they're under resourced and they don't have the money to hire doulas or go see therapists or do all of that stuff. And so they're looking for trusted resources online. And a lot of times that really just looks like, somebody else telling their story so they don't feel so alone. Because usually when you're becoming a mom, especially as a young mom, you're kind of the only one in your family going through it. And so you feel like you're the only one in the whole world who's gone through this. And every single new thing, you're like, is this normal? Am I supposed to feel this
Yeah.
way?
I
So,
mean, how do you know? And how do you even know what to ask about it? Or,
exactly.
yeah, it's so sad. Mental health, first of all, and then maternal mental
Yeah.
health, just abysmal. It is. I'm in Nevada and we're the same way here. And just
It's so
horrific.
bad.
I'm glad you mentioned your podcast, though. I have the link to your Instagram page for the podcast in the show notes. So
Oh, nice.
people
Thank
can
you.
go and find that for postpartum resources. So you had the baby. How was the experience for your husband? Because this was a big change.
Yeah. So he's the best dad. It's so wild. He actually like stays at home with our daughter now because I have my full-time job, I'm building my business, all of this. And so he was working part-time and his company did a downsizing and we decided like, okay, he's just not going to go back to work. I mean, he edits my podcast, he does all of that stuff for me, but then he also takes care of her like as the primary parent. And he's just stepped into the role like so wholeheartedly. And he definitely had that worry early on, like in the first week, where he was like, am I like, I don't feel like as much as you do, it seems like, am I doing this wrong? Like, what's happening? And we laugh about it now because now he's like, oh my gosh, I love her with my whole heart. Like, I can't even imagine my world without her. But I think for the dad, it's such a like, slow transition into that. Mom carries and grows the baby for 9 months. So of course we're attached to them when they come out. But dad's like, I just met you. How am I supposed to feel this strongly? But yeah, he really stepped into that role.
I just think that that's amusing.
Yeah.
When dads are like, nah, I mean, prior, nah, I don't really want to be a dad. I'm fine. And like, the bigger they are, the harder they
Yes.
fall. That's
Exactly.
great. That's so good. So you breastfed. I know that
Yes.
because of
Yep.
the notes that I have. So tell me about your postpartum journey and how that shifted, because you've already said you're building a business and you're working. So I really want to shift into postpartum with you.
Yeah. So I breastfed for 26 months. We actually just weaned a couple weeks ago. So my breastfeeding journey was amazing. I think I just got so lucky. We didn't have latch issues. Like it was great. I did the Thompson method breastfeeding course before, and I literally recommend that
You
to
did.
every single mom I meet. Like it is life changing. It was,
Yeah.
I'm very type A. I like structured learning.
Yeah, me
So
too.
Yeah,
And
it
I was
was,
like, I know, of course you did something. That's right. But I'm the
yeah,
same way. I mean, I wanted to understand. I don't think I was as much with the first baby. I thought I'd have a midwife, and that was a team I created, and they would support me. And when that didn't happen, I didn't have a backup plan or training. So
yeah.
good for you. So you went through that. That's amazing. That's wonderful. Because I know from your podcast, you've probably heard tons and tons of women having issues with breastfeeding, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it is so hard for so many reasons. Like latch issues is one, and then just like the resources and the ability to do it. So I work from home, so I could breastfeed when
Right.
I wanted to. I could take a few moments. My boss is incredibly supportive. He has two young kids, and his second is like just barely older than Amelia. And so he really like understood
Yeah.
and supported me in that. And so I didn't have to pump a lot. And that's something that I think my journey would have been very different if it was like I have to leave every day and go to an office and take my pump and then deal with my milk. And I only had to do that a few times when I traveled for work. And that's actually like the exact reason that I decided to build an apparel brand for nursing moms because I went to a board meeting.
Okay.
My daughter was 10 months old, so I had to pump after the board meeting, and I just like we were in a borrowed office and I like ducked into this empty office because I couldn't find anywhere else to go. And then I realized I couldn't get my pumps in my dress. And so I had to just like take off the top of my dress. So I'm sitting topless in a stranger's office thinking, really hope there's no security camera in here just so I could pump. And that was the moment where I was like, okay, I have to solve this. Like I have to build something for this. I was a very reluctant fashion founder. All my experience has been in tech, but I was like, you solve the problem, and I was intimately familiar with the problem of wondering how I could get a boob out of everything that I was wearing every single
Oh,
day. And like it's
it's
just so
it's
challenging.
that is crazy. I remember when I stopped breastfeeding again, like a 2 year old, but like later, when I
Yeah.
had my last baby, and I was blessed to be able to go clothes shopping because I was like, my whole life has changed. I'm not going to have more children. I
Yeah.
have been breastfeeding. I had breastfed for 11 years off and on. Right. So, yeah. So I was like, I want a belt. I want shoes that are not necessarily sensible. I don't
Yeah.
want anything with flaps in them. I want to tuck things in. And it was one of the hardest things. I went with a friend of mine and I picked up a pair of shoes, and she said, I thought we were going for like post babies, maybe even the word sexy thrown in there. And I said, yeah. And she goes, put those down. Like, because you're so geared to make
Yeah.
sure when you leave, like the sweater I have on right now is so bulky that to lift
Yeah.
it up and get a baby, I would have never worn this sweater breastfeeding, or to pull it down and have everything hanging out. You can't do that all
Exactly.
this. Like it. So I sewed my own clothes because my kids are considerably older than yours. And there were no resources, but still, when you're talking
Yeah.
about fashion, it's like, they were great. I did a great job sewing. I love them. It was amazing. But it's all like panels with slits, which you kind of have to do to some degree, or
Yeah.
a double layer that you lift. And they worked fine. But I felt like, especially looking back at pictures, I wasn't dressing my style. I was dressing in a style that was provided for me because that was
Hmm.
kind of all that there was. And I wasn't like you, where I was like, I'm going to make this better. I did sewing my own. I made it
Yeah.
better, but that marginally.
Yeah.
So we all have this same issue of how do we get our boobs out of everything all the time, but still remain clothed.
Yeah.
Tell me about your process with that, because so many of us are intimately aware of this.
Yeah, and it is so wild. For 18 months I've been working on this and I talked to so many moms and it is like the silent struggle that people just don't talk about. And when you meet non-moms, they're like, "Is that really a problem?" Because people aren't talking about it. But when you meet a mom, she's like, "Oh, yeah, no, I get it. I've like had to disrobe in bathroom stalls and pump in disgusting places just so I could hide." And so I found a dress at one point that I was like, oh, wow, this design works really well for nursing. And it's a double layer, like what you're talking about, where it was like a overlapping triangle on the bottom layer. and then a top sweater piece. And it was a totally regular dress just at Nordstrom. And I was like, this makes the perfect nursing dress. Why don't I make nursing dresses exactly like this? Like, I altered it a little bit because the sweater was really cropped and like I just wanted to make things more forgiving. And so I specifically make everything out of knit material so that it's like naturally forgiving, because that's the other thing postpartum, like your size is changing. You're still figuring out what your new normal is going to be. Some people drop the weight really fast. Some people hold it while they're breastfeeding. And so I wanted to create something that didn't have like an elastic band, but still had comfort and forgiving and some stretch to it. And so knit was the way to go. My daughter also has eczema, so she got that around 3 months, and the switch to natural fibers was something that my husband and I like fully embraced. So when you layer that into trying to find nursing apparel, there's pretty much nothing. It all uses polyester or it's loungewear. Like you can
Yeah.
find some organic cotton stuff, but it's made for staying home, not for going out.
Yeah.
And so one of my core values in building this apparel brand is only using natural fibers. I refuse to use polyester, nylon, rayon. It makes the price higher, and I hate that it makes the price higher. And I'm like trying to do everything I can to stay true to the natural fibers, still source from sustainable manufacturers, and bring the costs down so that it's more accessible. But I'm doing what I can and solving the problem that I can. So our first dress is wool cashmere, the next one will be organic cotton, and then the next one later this year will be like a wool silk blend. So really embracing the like breathability of natural fibers too, because I had so many hot flashes. Every time I would start nursing, I would have a hot flash, and polyester just makes that so much worse. So
Yeah. And we were talking before we started recording. I remember because my oldest daughter is almost 34. And like, why do they make maternity clothes, especially more back then? Now it's so much better. But I was like, pink and orange with bows and big buttons. Like,
yeah,
did you suddenly become an idiot? And not, but there was so little available back then, and
yeah,
breastfeeding clothes were worse than that. I mean, there was less available, and it's kind of like, let's take the most uncomfortable situation and put it on the woman who's also the most uncomfortable,
yeah.
and make her feel a million times worse than she really looks. And that, I mean, I just felt like, has anyone looked in the mirror, myself included, and been like, you're going out like this? And really, there were not very many options. Also, that was pre-internet.
Yeah.
I mean, like now at least we can search for things, but it pre-internet and pre-people, women saying, no, we don't want to wear this stuff, there was literally nothing, which is why I sewed my own and could choose fabrics. But I can't imagine sourcing materials with the list that you shared and having it not be expensive like that. I
Yeah.
don't, so I guess you have to choose what's the most important to you.
Yeah.
um, so I'm on your site, and the dress is beautiful. It's the
Thank
Lana.
you.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
beautiful. You'd never know that it was a nursing dress, which is the point.
Yeah.
But also you made it so that it could be in two styles.
Yes. Yeah. So this top sweater piece is completely removable. So you can wear it as like a sleeveless dress, and it still has the overlapping triangle. So you can just pull down to nurse. Obviously, like that makes you a little bit more exposed, but some women are not bothered by that. Or if you want to put a nursing cover on, like you can do that. But if you wear it with the sweater, you just pull the sweater up and pull the triangle down, and it is completely discreet. Like the only thing out is where baby is latched. Or you can put your wearable pumps in and put the sweater over it, and then you can just pump at your desk without having to like go hide somewhere.
Which is great. It's great that you
Yeah.
can. It's crazy how many bathroom stalls women have been in to
Yes.
feed or caretake their babies, whether they're pumping or not.
Yeah.
What are the style differences going to be moving? Because this style is great. I was like, does she have two different dresses? I'm like, oh my gosh, she did a 2-in-1. That's
Yes.
amazing. That was so smart, and in two different colors. I love it. It's so great. It looks like a normal human being, which is kind of what we want to. We do not feel like normal human beings.
Yes, yeah. I wanted to get away from like I feel like a milk cow with my flaps and zippers and all of that stuff. So
Zippers, like that's painful to think
the
about.
worst.
Don't, yeah.
Yeah. But the dress in the summer all the dresses are going to use the same like overlapping triangle as the top of the base piece because that's just the easiest. It's
Yep.
the most accommodating to changing bust size, pumps, everything like that. It has a lot of stretch in it because the way we do the knit. And then what changes is the top layer that goes over. So for the summer, it's going to be like an organic cotton type dress, very flowy, like midi length with a V neck. So the top will still be like sleeveless and V neck and with like a knot in the middle. So it kind of adds just like some fun character. It's elevated. You could put a blazer over it and wear it to work. You can wear it to brunch. It can be casual, like dressed up, dressed down. And that's kind of how I wanted to make everything. So even the cashmere dress, you can wear it with sneakers and like have a kind of a casual look, or you can pair it with nice heels and wear it to the office or out on a date night. And then the fall dress will be a pleated skirt and a long sleeve, like merino wool, like sweater top. So super luxurious, but lightweight because everybody gets hot when they nurse.
Yeah, no, I mean, just having a human being on you.
Exactly.
I want to, you did mention that your daughter had eczema, and so like you were forced to figure out what
Yeah,
you could even wear to have her up next to you all the time, which how crazy is that? But you made sure that these were all hormone safe, which I mean, I don't know how related to eczema that is, but it's a different way of saying something. Because that's another thing that women have to consider. Like your baby may not have any skin issues, you may not have any skin issues, that may not be the issue, and you're getting them sourced. But hormones we're all familiar with
yeah,
postpartum, and just knowing that there, I mean, that begs the question, like how much are you wearing that is not hormone safe or that is interfering with
yeah.
your hormones potentially and making them worse. I'm postmenopause. I don't want to wear anything that's messing with like we have enough messing
Exactly.
around without adding insult to injury.
Yeah,
So I really appreciate that you wrote that way specifically, because regardless, that is something really important that women should be thinking about in what they're putting on. Your skin is the largest organ in your body, and you're
exactly.
absorbing things into it. So I really appreciate that. Was what a great detail to bring up in that. I want
Yeah.
to mention one more thing or ask you about one more thing because, well, I want to shout out, but also you're in Mrs. Idaho America 2026. Woohoo!
Yes.
What, tell us how that happened and what happened and your change. I mean, the post you did about it is really outstanding. So
Yeah.
that's a great place to end, because I think women who are go through pregnancy and postpartum, just the whole gamut of that, you feel like you've kind of lost your identity to
Yeah.
some degree. And instead of it empowering you and making you feel more confident, it doesn't always. So
Yeah.
I want to end on this story.
Yeah. So I competed in pageants when I was younger, 20 years ago, and I never thought I would do one again, but I always appreciated that I got a lot of my confidence and public speaking skills, and just I learned a lot in pageants that has served me very well throughout life. And as I was fundraising for Hone, I kept getting compliments like, hey, you carry yourself really well. Like, are you media trained or things like that? And I'm like, no, not technically, but I did pageants when I was younger. And so that kept coming up. And then I actually saw a post by the current Mrs. Idaho, who is also a mom. And she was talking about just what an amazing time she had doing the pageant. And literally within like 4 minutes of seeing the post, I had decided I'm very much a like intuition driven person. I just said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to sign up. I'm going to go for it this year. And so I signed up, and the process of preparing has actually been exactly what I needed. So for 2 years postpartum, I was kind of in survival mode. I was building a business, working full time, taking care of my daughter. I was pouring into others all the time and not pouring into myself. And I had just kind of like lost touch with that part of me that took care of me. And so preparing for this helped me to kind of get reintroduced to that part of me because you never go back to who you were before you become a mom, and there's no such thing as going back, but it allowed me to have that part of me meet me here where I am now and integrate that into my life. And now my daughter loves to sit on the sink while I do my hair and makeup, and it's super cute. She loves to help and use the little makeup brushes. And it's really cool being able to show her that example of like, hey, we can give to others, and then we can also prioritize ourselves and do things that are just for us sometimes too. And it became my platform actually for the pageant as well, from birth to bold. So
Mm.
helping to inspire other moms who are in it, in the thick of it right now. Like, hey, it gets better. Just do one small thing for you every week, not even every day, because in early postpartum, that's just not a reality. But like, just start making small steps towards prioritizing yourself, and then providing resources to help educate. And just inspiring the community to take action. So I also make freezer meals for postpartum moms in the community that are struggling, just in like an informal way. And I try to inspire other women to do the same thing. Because when I started sharing about it, people were like, oh, I want to do that. I want to help. I'm like, yes, do it. Post every time you see a mom post in a mom group saying she's scared or she's having a hard time, offer to bring her a freezer meal, because that is the best way to take care of somebody. Feeding yourself in those early postpartum days is nearly impossible. And that's just a great way to show up. So that's how I ended up on the pageant journey. I compete in like 2 weeks. It's crazy.
Oh
It's
my gosh.
almost time. Yeah, I'm very excited. Got the wardrobe all dialed in. I have some amazing sponsors here that have been very supportive. And then my husband and daughter are super excited to see me compete as well. So
Well, I'm just proud that you got this far. I mean, I'm so excited. Want to hear how it goes, but regardless of what happens moving forward, winning's not as much, I think, of the issue as one, bringing awareness, but two,
yes,
sharing a platform that you're passionate about. So proud of you. Thank you so much for sharing your story and for what you're
of
doing.
course.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to share. I appreciate it.